I really wanted to review every single Dreamworks movie in an ultimate tier list, but I feel like no one wants to listen to 2 hours of movie reviews, so I'm going to rapid fire review every Dreamworks movie in one sentence instead. In every review, I'll have the rating, the movie poster, and I'll mention if it's a strong or weak 7. If it's a strong 7, it means it's closer to an 8 than it is a 6. If it's a weak 7, it's closer to a 6 than it is an 8. This idea is pretty much completely stolen from JELLOAPOCALYPSE's video, where he did basically the same thing, so all credit goes to him for coming up with this amazing idea. Just like him, I'm going to go through what every number means, and yes, this applies to videos outside of this one. A 1 on 10 is a horrible movie that no one should ever watch. This is the kind of movie you don't even want to think about again. A 2 on 10 is the same way, but you can see things that are fine about it, as opposed to a 1 where everything is bad. A 3 on 10 is a movie that you can sit through, even though you desperately want to change movies. A 4 on 10 is a movie that you didn't really enjoy watching. This is the kind of movie where you hesitate to say it's awful, but it definitely isn't good either. A 5 on 10 is a completely neutral opinion. You have no positive or negative feelings of the movie, and you would never see it again. A 6 on 10 is a good movie, but nothing more. You don't feel like it wasted your time, but you're not in a hurry to see it again either. This is also the kind of movie where there are a lot of problems, but the good outweighs the bad. A 7 on 10 is simply a solid movie, but it's nothing spectacular or amazing. An 8 is simply a great movie. Almost every scene is good, or at least fine. A 9 is an outstanding movie, something that almost anyone will enjoy. A 10 is a movie that immerses you into the world, or touches you so deeply that you recommend it to anyone who enjoys film. It's still better than Bug's Life. I can see why this has such a high Rotten Tomatoes score. What kind of city name is El Dorado? I seriously don't remember anything good about this movie. The comedy is the best and worst part of this movie. Horses running for 86 minutes. The movie. I'd never heard of this movie in my life. No bad humor, so it's better than the first one. Fun fact, racial stereotypes and ugly fish don't mix. If you asked me to explain this movie's plot, I wouldn't be able to. Saturday morning cartoons. The movie. How does this movie have less toilet humor than all of the Shrek movies? Unfunny and uninteresting movies make unfunny and uninteresting movies. The memes are much better than the movie. Thank God Dreamworks remembered how to make a good movie. At least it's funny. A little dark and broody, but otherwise amazing. I don't understand. The character design looks worse than Shrek's. The memes aren't as good as the movie. The sequel's a little bit better in every way. Not even a great villain can save this franchise. Underrated and much better than I remember it. Does the main character ever affect the plot? Who the hell came up with the idea of a snail wanting to win the Indy 500? History nerds will like this movie. Epic and awesome, until the side characters open their mouth. Keeps the same energy as Madagascar, but this time it has interesting and likable characters. When you cringe at everything that's happening in the movie, that's probably a good sign that it's bad. Such mediocre world building kind of makes this one mediocre. If there was an Oscar category for worst teaser of all time, this movie would win by a landslide. The butt to frame ratio is way too high. Take notes, boss baby. This movie, real pretty. It kinda does feel like a concert. Alright, now that you know what the ratings look like, let's do the top and bottom 5. I'm going to alternate, so top 5, top 4, bottom 4, you get the idea. Bottom 5, Home. So I don't really like movies with annoying characters. I think nobody does. And boy does this movie have them. Some characters are just flat out stupid, and the audience is supposed to find that funny. I mean, it would be kind of excusable, if not for the fact that these characters are also really boring. The alien who don't know how work this. The kid with a dead dad. The tough girl with a heart of gold. Everything in this movie has been done 1,000 times better and is generic and boring. The Boov world is kind of interesting. That's a highlight, I think. Top 5, How to Train Your Dragon 2. Amazing color palette and characters and a great dragon who doesn't speak. If you watch my videos, you know how much I like silent characters, and Toothless is no exception. I think he gets a lot of great character moments, especially at the end of the movie. He is the best in this movie than in any other movie. The villain is a little ridiculous, but it doesn't bother me that much, since he is legitimately intimidating at times. The romance between Hiccup's parents is great as well. Unfortunately, the addition of the side characters and their subplot, neither of which is really interesting, is what brings this movie down to a 9 instead of the 10 it kind of deserves. Bottom 4. Shrek the Third. Good God, this movie's bad. Not awful. No, awful's the word, actually. It has so many idiocies in its dialogue and plot. Why would throwing a glass bottle at a boat cause the mast to catch on fire? Why are 90% of the characters in the movie? They're never entertaining or affect the plot. Why is the comedy as bad as Brave's? The second Shrek had good comedy. It feels like Dreamworks has two sets of writers at this point, the good ones and the bad ones. This movie was clearly written by the bad ones, and it shows. Top 4. Kung Fu Panda. Beautiful kung fu and hilarious dialogue that delivers Poe's anguish and longing perfectly. I feel like this movie was everything Shrek was trying to be. A serious take on an issue a character has that also has some great comedy. The difference here is that Kung Fu Panda is a lot more funny and it doesn't use pop culture as a crutch. I also think this movie devotes a lot more time to serious subjects. I love this trilogy to pieces for its inventive world, characters, and all around great comedy, even if the third one didn't really live up to the first and second. Bottom 3. B Movie. Oh, B Movie. I think everyone has a special place in their heart for this movie. It has so many quotable lines and hilarious memes. But is it a good movie? No. It's this weird movie that starts off as a human B world comparison and then a lawsuit because apparently Barry figured out how to work the American law system, and then a flower crisis. It's almost like the writers had to write the script in 5 days and then just gave up and mushed together a bunch of ideas they had from other movies. A lot of the movie's comedy is derived from horribly delivered and written lines, which are somehow ironically good. Still, this movie is a joke and not a funny one at that. Top 3. Megamind. Oh, Megamind. I think everyone has a special place in their heart for this movie. It has so many quotable lines and hilarious memes. But is it a good movie? Absolutely. This movie is expertly made, with some incredibly funny lines and a shockingly mature story, with undertones of a bunch of different issues, like prejudice, society placing you into one category you need to fit in, and nature versus nurture. When people ask me, aren't animated movies for little babies? I show them this movie. Bottom 2. Monsters vs. Aliens. Oh boy, is this movie ugly. The character design outside of Susan looks worse than Shrek's, somehow, which was made 8 years ago. Monsters vs. Aliens doesn't even feel like a parody. It's just a really ugly, really bad, really pointless, really stupid movie that I'm never going to see again. Top 2. How to Train Your Dragon 3. This is a perfect cherry on top of a delicious sundae that is the How to Train Your Dragon movies. Gorgeously shot and gorgeous in general, with some incredible art that is innovating animation as an art form. It concludes this epic tale perfectly and has a great villain who is much better than the last movie's villain. I also recommend that you watch the first two movies before you watch this one, because seeing Hiccup grow is just the coolest thing. Definitely see this movie. I don't know where the reviews came from. And the worst Dreamworks movie is Shark Tale. It's really hard to get mad at other people for not liking/liking movies. If you don't like Ratatouille or The Incredibles, that's cool. But Shark Tale is not possible to like. Even if you can get past Lenny's hilariously unsubtle depiction of gay, or the horrible emotional beats, or the even worse protagonist and characters, the animation has to uninterest you. Some scenes are just unfinished, and the animators thought no one would notice. Apparently, no one did notice because some people still think this is good. Every time I think of this movie, I think there is a group of highly intelligent people who are all working for a huge animation company that all greenlit this movie. What the heck were they thinking? And on the complete opposite end, my number one favorite DreamWorks movie, Kung Fu Panda 2. Of all the movies on this list, I put this one as my favorite simply because it does it all. An incredible villain who's memorable, dark, and a little pitiful? Check. A different story that is super genuine and leads to a great climax? Check. A new arsenal of characters that each add something new? Check. This is nearly perfect, and I hope I get the chance to talk about it again on my channel.